Hi, have you ever been confused and sought more clarity in life? Have you ever wondered about the direction of your life and pondered over the infinite choices that you have? Have you ever wondered if our lives have meaning? My name is Dr. Sanjeev. My team and I at Your Growth Story welcome you to this video on existentialism in therapy. We explored this topic in three segments. Firstly, we begin with the origin story of existentialism. And then we move on to understanding its key concepts. And finally, we move to exploring existential therapy in action. Let's begin our journey by understanding the origin story of existentialism. It all started in the year 1942 when a psychologist named Viktor Frankl was imprisoned by the Nazi Germany. Inside the concentration camp, Viktor Frankl witnessed his entire family being killed and he was completely devastated. This was the case with majority of the people inside the concentration camp, and very few still maintain hope. Viktor Frankl was curious, what is it that kept 2% of the people inside still alive with hope? So he studied the works of existential philosophers extensively to understand what is it that kept people going despite the difficult circumstances that life threw at them. He deduced that everything can be taken away from a human except one thing: the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude to respond to any given circumstance. Thus was born the therapy that enabled people to survive and live even at the face of death, called logotherapy, the therapy through meaning. His contemporaries were Rollo May and Irvin Yalom, who took existentialism and integrated it with mainstream psychotherapy. There are three philosophers who influenced existentialism. The first one is Soren Kierkegaard, who propounded that every man has to deal with his existential anxiety and discover the meaning of life for himself. Friedrich Nietzsche propounded that there exists no absolute truth, but each man has to discover his subjective truth. The third philosopher is Jean-Paul Sartre, who propounded that it is the choices that we make that create our lives. There are 5 key concepts of existentialism. Every human has the capacity for self-awareness and self-discovery. The second existential concept is about the balance between freedom and responsibility. You have the freedom to choose in every moment, and thus you are responsible for the creation of your entire life. The third existential concept is once again a conflictual balance between being alone and discovering your own identity versus the intrinsic need to belong, called relatedness. Life in itself has no meaning. It is for each person to search for their own meaning of life. That is the fourth principle of existentialism. The fifth key of existentialism is about accepting the 4 givens of life, which are death, isolation, meaninglessness, and total choice. Let us look at how these principles actually play out in an existential therapy in action. From the case files. Dr. Paul Kalanidhi, the author of the book When Breath Becomes Air. In his memoir, he writes that his therapist, an oncologist, helps him to come to terms with the cancer that he has been diagnosed with. Paul is diagnosed with small cell carcinoma and has 1 year to live. Paul wonders about the meaning of life and comes in confrontation with his existential anxiety. His therapist talks to him and holds a safe space for Paul to examine his values. The therapist asks questions to Paul and encourages Paul to discover what he stands for and what is it that he would still like to do even if he had just 1 year to live. Paul discovers that there are only two things that are really dear to him, and number one, that is saving lives of people by performing surgeries. So he gets in touch with his physiotherapist and starts rehab to stand up once again despite the cancer, despite the pain, to go to the hospital and perform surgeries and save lives. The second value that Paul discovers that his life stands for is to have intimacy in the relationship that he shares with his wife Lucy. So, after a lot of discussion, Lucy and Paul agree that a legacy that they would like to leave behind in the memory of the relationship is to get pregnant, and they both would love to create a child. And this adds a lot of meaning to Paul's life and purpose to his remaining number of days to live. Finally, when cancer rings the bell, the final call is on. Paul is on his deathbed, but he has made his peace with it. At a very existential level, he now sees cancer as an invitation for him to discover what meaning his life holds for him. And in this way, we understand the crucial role of Paul's therapist, who nudges Paul, encourages Paul, and holds a safe space for him to grow and ponder over the exist. Here are some existential questions for you to ponder over. Number one, what adds meaning to my life? Number two, which relationships are the most meaningful ones in my life? What would it take to have more meaningful connections in my existing relationships? Number three, what would it take to have a deeper and richer experience of life? Number four, if I were to die tomorrow, what matters most to me today? Number five, what would I like my life to be like? Number six, who am I today? Number seven, what is the legacy that I would like to leave behind me? Thank you so much for watching this video on existentialism in therapy. Do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more such videos. And on the comment section, do let us know how you felt after watching this video and what is the topic that you would like me to make an animated video next. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Sanjeev and team Your Growth Story.